Hey everyone, my name's Jesus Gringo. I'm coming to you from Mexico City, and this video is titled MAGA's Using a South Park Defense for Renée Good Shooting. I really can't believe we are in upside down land. Now, South Park has a couple of episodes where they go hunting, and because it's prohibited to hunt the animals there, they all decide to just yell, "It's coming right for us," to create their own threat so that they can then say it's self-defense. Now, I'm going to get into this in a second, but I want to actually play this short South Park clip first.
Boys, looky there. There's a Rocky Mountain black bear, one of the few remaining of its kind. Isn't it beautiful?
My God, it's coming right for us!
Hey, it wasn't coming right for us. It was just sitting there.
Shh, not so loud. Now there's just a technicality.
What do you mean?
You see, boys, the Democrats have passed a lot of laws trying to stop us from hunting.
Democrats piss me off.
They say we can't shoot certain animals anymore unless they're posing an immediate threat. Therefore, before we shoot something, we have to say, "It's coming right for us."
Wow, you're smart, Uncle Jimbo.
So, it's absolutely ridiculous that we've come to the point that a South Park skit is being used basically as the defense for the Renée Good shooting. Now, I want to explain. Originally, there was a Fifth Circuit of Appeals decision that was called the moment of threat, which meant as long as the officer believed their life was in danger, the only thing that mattered was when she was moving the car, did he feel like his life was in danger? And if he felt that way, then case closed, he has a right to shoot. The problem is that precedent was changed in May of 2025 in a case called Barnes versus Felix, but I'm going to get into that next. First, I want to talk about how ridiculous the defenders of that shooting are, forgetting the Supreme Court decision, forgetting the moment of threat issue, all that kind of stuff. And there's a reason it's completely ridiculous. The feds have two policies that basically say, don't block a vehicle with your body and move out of the way instead of shoot, but let me go through it all right now. So federal law enforcement policy generally dictates that officers should not shoot at a moving vehicle solely to disable it or prevent escape. And officers are typically trained to move out of the path of a vehicle rather than standing in front of it to block it. This is due to the high risk of injury to bystanders and the unpredictability of a vehicle once a driver is shot. So it's basically broken down into four things. Number one, officer positioning. Policies direct federal officers not to deliberately place themselves in the path of a moving vehicle to create a situation where deadly force might be considered necessary. It's often called officer-created jeopardy. And I want you to think about that for a second, how ridiculous that is. That means at any time, if a cop just gets pissed off at you and doesn't want to handle you anymore, he can just step in front of your car. And then if you do anything, he can say, "Oh my God, it's coming right for me. It's coming right for me." Create his own jeopardy and then shoot you and gun you down like a dog. That's why the feds have a policy not to do that. Not some hippie leftist group, not a bunch of people who want to hamstring federal law enforcement from getting the job done. No, it's literally a federal policy because otherwise officers can create their own jeopardy and then use that as a defense. Now, they're not allowed to, block your vehicle and shoot at you and not move out of the way if you're just trying to leave. They can get your plate. The officer was recording with his cell phone cam and he switched the cell phone and the gun to get ready to shoot. I mean, that's just Absolutely, absolutely ridiculous. But now they could shoot in a separate case. For example, let's say the person is shooting off a gun at officers, or the driver has a hostage in the vehicle and they're afraid if he gets away that harm could befall that hostage. So they're not saying there's never any reason why you would have to shoot somebody like a bank robber that's fired off shots at cops already. What they're saying is, if someone's simply trying to leave, and that's all she was trying to do, she said, "I'm not mad at you." And then after she starts to drive away, he guns her down and then says, "Fucking bitch." That wasn't fear, that was anger. That was that officer losing his cool because she didn't respect my authority. Another South Park skit with Cartman. I mean, it's that absolutely ridiculous that he didn't simply move out of the way. So the second part is the use of deadly force. Firearms may only be discharged at a moving vehicle if there is an imminent threat of death or serious physical injury to the officer or others, and no other reasonable means of defense exists. That's what they're talking about. Just move out of the way. He didn't have to shoot. Policy dictates you do not block a vehicle with your body. You don't do it because you're creating the unnecessary risk. And a lot of times she was getting screamed at. Renee, one officer's telling her to go. The car in front of her goes. Another officer, the one that shot, screaming at her to stop. She's not trained for this situation. The officer is. The officer is trained. So it goes into, what are the reasonable alternatives? Officers are required to use reasonable alternatives, such as stepping out of the vehicle's path to avoid using deadly force. Like, how ridiculous do you have to be in MAGA to actually believe that it's better for a federal agent to gun someone down, be judge, jury, and executioner, as opposed to simply move out of the way? And that's not a hippie policy, like I said. That's the federal government's policy. It is the slipperiest slope of them all if you can just gun somebody down after you create your own danger. He had plenty of time to move out of the way, and he was not supposed to block the vehicle. He created his own fake danger. Can you imagine how ridiculous and unconstitutional an American you have to be to think gunning someone down is better than moving out of the way and simply going to arrest her later? They could follow her after she drove away and pull her over. They could show up at her house. They had her plate. They were filming her. Like, you have to be an absolute monster to think the best course of action is gun down an American citizen, take away their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, instead of just move out of the way and deal with it later. That's how repulsive the right-wing violence has gotten. It's the equivalent of stand your ground. I'm not going to get into this video because that's a whole other thing, but it is basically the same thing. It's just stand your ground instead of de-escalate, move out of the way, and arrest her later. But the only reason isn't just to protect Renee Good. It's also for bystander safety. A key reason for these restrictions is the significant danger posed to the public if a shot driver loses control of the vehicle. Now think about that. After he shot her, you see the vehicle roll. I think it went up possibly on a curb and maybe hit a little berm or something, but it did roll to a stop, somewhere between maybe 10 to 30 feet. But let's say that was downhill. Now you've sent a runaway vehicle down the hill that could take out other innocent bystanders, all because that officer didn't follow the policy that was designed to protect him. First of all, don't get in front of a car. Don't put yourself in danger against a moving vehicle. That's just stupid on its face. Forget the risk to Renee Good, the risk to the officer. It's a horrible strategy. You don't do that. And then as opposed to just gunning somebody down, you move out of the way. He had time to move the gun and phone, switch hands. He was getting ready to shoot. He was angry. At that very moment, he easily could have moved out of the way. There was no reason to be there. He violated policy, and there was no reason not to move. Another violation of policy. Now, up until this point, it was considered the moment of threat rule. But in Barnes versus Felix, which was a 2024 case that was decided May 15th of 2025. So in that case, Roberto Felix Jr., a law enforcement officer, pulled over Ashton Barnes for suspected toll violations, just toll violations. Felix ordered Barnes to exit the vehicle, but Barnes began to drive away. As the car began to move forward, Felix jumped onto its door sill and fired 2 shots inside. Barnes was fatally hit but managed to stop the car. About 5 seconds elapsed between when the car started moving and when it stopped. 2 seconds passed between the moment Felix stepped on the door sill and the moment he fired his first shot. Barnes's mother sued Felix on Barnes's behalf, alleging that Felix violated Barnes's Fourth Amendment right against excessive force. The district court granted summary judgment to Felix, so this is before the Supreme Court case, applying the Fifth Circuit's moment of threat rule. The Court of Appeals affirmed, explaining that the moment of threat rule requires asking only whether an officer was in danger at the moment of the threat that resulted in his use of deadly force. Under the rule, events leading up to the shooting are not relevant. That was the old standard that we used to have. But the Supreme Court finally came around and said there was no reason for that cop to jump onto the door sill and fire 2 shots. 2 seconds passed between the moment Felix stepped on the door sill and the moment he fired his first shot. What they're saying is he jumps on the car and puts himself in danger, and then we're going to allow that danger as a reason to just gun an American citizen down? They're like, no more. It is no longer just the moment of threat rule. So they held a claim that a law enforcement officer used excessive force during a stop or arrest is analyzed under the Fourth Amendment, which requires that the force deployed be objectively reasonable from the perspective of a reasonable officer at the scene. The inquiry into the reasonableness of police force requires analyzing the totality of the circumstances. What they're saying is, we used to give a free pass to cops. We said, hey, as long as you think you're in danger, we don't care what happened before, you get to just shoot. But they saw this case. It came on the docket. And they're like, what are we even talking about here? He hopped on the car, had 2 seconds on the door sill before he fired a shot. He had 0 reasons to hop on that car. It was a toll violation. Like I said, he's not a kidnapper. He's not a bank robber. He hasn't been firing shots. Evading a toll is a simple misdemeanor. We do not gun Americans down over simple misdemeanors. So that's why they said the new standard is the totality of the circumstances. So it's not just the moment when Renee starts moving and he goes, oh my God, it's coming right for us. It's coming right for us, and just pumps 3 shots into her. No, the totality of the circumstances are she's confused. She's getting conflicting orders. Federal policy says, do not put yourself in harm's way and try to block a vehicle that's simply trying to leave. And if the vehicle does continue to leave and you can get out of the way, get out of the way. He didn't do either of those things. He put himself in danger recklessly. He refused to move out of her way recklessly, and even took time to switch the phone and the gun so he could gun her down better. And as she's driving away, she says to him, "I'm not mad at you." Totally trying to de-escalate everything. And what does he do? He shoots her 3 fucking times and then says, "Fucking bitch." You know what happens if I'm scared to the point I think I'm gonna die? I'm gonna be basically breathing heavily, panicking. I'm not gonna be screaming, "Fucking bitch." That wasn't fear. That was uncontrollable rage, showing he never should have been a cop in the first place, and it's not his first time. I think it was a year or so previously, he did the same thing. There was some kind of traffic stop. They didn't respect his authority, so he punches out the rear window and ends up getting dragged. That should have been the end of that clown's career. That's not what you do at a traffic stop, period. You're not judge, jury, and executioner. You're not Rambo. You're not John Wick. You let the person go, and then you follow him in the cruiser, and you ask for backup. Again, we're not talking about a bank robber. We're not talking about a hostage situation. Renee wasn't firing off any shots. She's simply responding to one command saying leave after another vehicle in front of her did the exact same thing. There is no reason on earth that she ever should have been shot. That cop should have moved out of the way. But the absolute saddest part of all of this that MAGA is literally using the South Park defense. Do you realize how ridiculous that defense is? Obviously, they used it for hunting animals, but oh my God, it's coming right for us. It's coming right for us. That's exactly what he did to Renee when 1, he wasn't supposed to be in front of her, and 2, he was supposed to move out of the way. These are the saddest of all times. We went from Don't Tread on Me, Waco, and Ruby Ridge to them cheering for them gunning Renee Good down. And then they also say, because Alex Preddy kicked out a taillight in week before's protest, that somehow that justifies gunning him down. His case is even worse. There's 5 of them on top of him after all he did was try to help a woman they threw on the ground. Then they used mace or pepper spray or whatever in violation of their own policies. So he starts filming. Then they jump on him like a pack of dogs, get the gun away. Then after they have the gun, 2 officers pump 10 shots into him, completely denying life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You cannot justify either one of those shootings. If you try to justify either one of those shootings, you are the most un-American fascist bootlicker of all time. There is no reason for cops to be gunning us down unless they're in imminent danger that was created solely by Renee Good. If she created imminent danger, like she's shooting or she has a hostage, that's one thing. She's simply slowly backing up, turning the wheel, basically making a 2 or 3 point turn and trying to get out of there. She was in no way an imminent threat of any kind. He created his own imminent threat and then used his cowardice and his refusal to adhere to federal policy as an excuse to gun an American citizen down like he was judge, jury, and executioner. And the saddest part of this entire thing is me watching MAGA use it's coming right for us. It's coming right for us South Park defense. It doesn't get any more un-American or any more unconstitutional than that. Anyway, my name's Jesus Gringo. If you like the video, hit the like and subscribe buttons. I will see you in the next one, and thanks a lot for watching.